Naming ions with metals and nonmetals. The green represents metals, the blue transition metals, the yellow nonmetals. Valence electrons. The valence electrons will always try to be 0 or 8. Gaining or receiving electrons will be a negative charge. If they give off electrons, it will be a positive charge. Note: naming ions is a transformation.
Cations versus anions. Cation is always written first. Metals are cations and give negative electrons so they become positive. Will be groups 1, 2, and 13. Anions are always written second. Anions are metals that receive negative electrons. Will be groups 14 through 17. Had to add I at the end of the formula. Example. Formula to name. NH4F. NH, it's ammonium. F is fluorine. And it will be ammonium fluoride, adding I at the end. NaBr. Na, sodium. Br, bromine. Sodium bromide. It will add I at the end. So it will be sodium bromide. You can do these practice problems. You can pause the video now and we will do them together afterwards. Here are the answers for the practice problems. For this example from names to formula, we're going to use calcium phosphide. We will need the charges for each. So to find the charges, you will look at your periodic table. As you can see, calcium is in the second group. It is easier for it to lose 2 and become 0 than to gain 6 and become 8. So it will become positive 2 losing 2. Phosphorus, it is easier for it to gain 3 than to lose 5. So it will become negative 3. But we're not done. We still have another step. For this step, we will have to... There's 2 ways actually to do this. There is one way that works 100% of the time, and the other way works 95% of the time. I will teach you both ways. The first way will be the 100% of the time. You will look for a common denominator. In this case will be 6. You will divide 2 divided by 6 equals 3. 3 divided by 6 equals 2. As you can see, the numbers just switch. What we call a swap. So you just swap the numbers, but you never take the charges that are positive and negative. So it will become Ca3P2, and that is your final answer. So we're gonna do a little more naming. These are gonna be a little more difficult and different because these are gonna have a little Roman numerals, and we will explain later. But these copper, we have copper here, and copper is a transition metal. And we have chloride. Now we know that chloride is a -1 charge, but we don't know what copper is because copper as a transition metals can do 2 different charges. So we know that chloride is a -1, but because we have 2, we have to multiply it by 2, and that gives us -2. Now for copper, we have to balance out the positive and negatives. So we know this is going to be a positive because our chloride is a negative already. It's going to be a positive, and because this is a 2, this is going to be a 2 as well, so they can balance out. So it's going to be... So at the end, it's going to be written out as copper to chloride. As you can see, we have these 2 Roman numerals right here. And that is how you name them. Now I'm going to give you another example for naming. This one we have iron, And iron is, we don't know what it is. It's a transition metal, so we don't know the charge. Now we know that we have 2. And we have oxygen here. And we know that oxygen likes, or oxygen is -2. Now again, we know that we have 3, so it's times 3. So that will give us -6. That with that we know that we need to get -6, well 6, -6 divided by 2, because that is how many irons we have, equals 3. But because we have to balance out the charges, this will be a positive. So now we know that Fe, iron, equals 3. That is a 3. Sorry for that. And so we will write it out as iron 3 oxide. We're going to do some practice problems. You may pause the video now and I will show you the answers when you finish. These are the answers for the practice problems. Now we're going to do from name to formula. As you can see, we still have the Roman numerals right here. And what we're going to do is, we know that chloride likes to have is a -1 charge. So -1. And apparently, because of the Roman numerals, it will be a +3. So we will find a common denominator, and it will be 3 in this case. So Fe, 3 divided by 3 equals 0. 1 into 3 equals 3. So there it goes. We're going to do some practice problems. You can pause the video now and I will show you the answers afterwards. These are the answers for the practice problems.